I was down this rabbit hole of success. I was down this rabbit hole of all the success books. Here's what successful people do, listening to success books, reading success books, implementing all this stuff. And I was miserable. I was like, this is actually an awful way to live. Because if you spend your day doing everything that you should do, you will never have time to do anything you want to do or live. And I'll say that again. If you spend your entire life and you are meditating, doing breath work, eating clean, getting 20 minutes of sunlight in the morning or whatever, you are stretching, you're working out twice a day for 30 minutes, you're making sure that you're drinking water at these intervals before and after eating, but not too soon, not too much after, your entire life becomes this big thing that you are trapped in and constrained by.
I'm so happy with just where things are going. Our guest today is my friend Zack. I'm a little bit late on actually getting the content out to you all, but I can tell you this one was awesome. Honestly, all of the ones I've been doing I really love, but this one I really felt like it really went in full circle, and especially towards maybe when we start getting to a little bit of the last 30 minutes of the episode. I mean, Zack just drops so much knowledge and just so much life lessons that he's gone through. He takes the time to share a moment when, I mean, for him, it felt as though maybe his world was crashing down, and like kind of his perseverance and his paradigm shift that helped him to really get through that and just get better. I recommend it to everyone. If you have the time as you're listening to this episode, take down some notes. If you're someone that maybe you're thinking about maybe doing a reselling business, Zack talks a little bit about Gary Vee and how he took the teachings of Gary Vee in order to actually help him financially to stay afloat when it came to paying bills in his life. I thought it was huge. Again, I'm super excited for this. Thank you for sticking with me throughout this journey. Many, many more videos to come. But right now, we're going to check out our 4th video with Zack. Let's get it going.
Yo, Zack, what's up?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, we're finally able to connect after what, like three attempts?
Yeah, I think third time's a charm, yeah?
Oh, man. How you been today?
I've been good, dude. I finished up some work stuff, and I was in a weird little holding pattern before work where it was one of those things where it's been a busy week. I was able to knock out all the stuff I needed to knock out towards the end of the day.
Nice.
Now, so I was like, man, I'm free whenever Simone's ready, so we're good.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I would tell you, man, whenever we chat, Zack, I think the conversation just goes so deep.
It does.
And just from a whole bunch of different aspects and avenues, and I know I'm getting even to a small rant here, but I just want to introduce to all the listeners out here right now. Our guest today, we do have Zack Hadley. Zack and I have been friends since, honestly, it was my junior or sophomore year of college. We met in a food systems class. Taught at Ohio State, exactly. Taught by Professor Kareem Usher. Shout out to that man. Great class. Great class. It was phenomenal. Fantastic. And I think it was my sophomore year. And what year was it for you, Zack?
It was my second year of grad.
Second year grad school. Yeah, you were doing city planning as the what is it? What do they call it?
Masters.
Yeah, man, it's been so long, man. But
so we're getting old.
I know, right? But we met in the class, and it was just, I mean, Zack, you were a fantastic human being, and it's like, they say, like, you meet some friends in life, and, I mean, they're just there for a season, but there's something about the way you move and just your overall outlook on life and your grit and the go-getter attitude and mentality, like, it's attractive, it's infectious, and I mean, I vibe a lot off of the same rhythms that you put out. So I was like, man, like, I think this is a lifelong friend that I potentially found and had no idea. So I definitely wanted to take the opportunity for my viewers that listen to the podcast to get to know you. I got a list of things here, man, and I know we were planning on doing this last week. I woke up on a Saturday. I was like, it's the day. Let's do it. I'm about to call Zack. And I mean, I always believe in things happen for a reason at a certain time. And I have a list of like just different topics, like, you know, like I was like, man, I want to kind of discuss with Zach. Like, first of all, I got Zuckery on here because you're going to be talking, you're going to be talking about your own content creating. So for those who don't know, Zach is a content creator. He is on YouTube under at Zuckery, right?
Yep.
All right, Zoochary.
Yep.
And I am saying that right.
Zuckery, whatever works, bro. People call it different things. As long as you know it's me, that's fine by me.
It's awesome. Like this man, and you're gonna go way more into detail, but this man, like the content he puts out, like you watch one video and you're set cooking wise for a whole month. I can just tell you that. And Zach, you're gonna go in detail about it. But I got that on here, man. I got life direction. Currently, like what you're doing on YouTube. You're almost at 4K subs. We're gonna talk about that. TikTok content creating. We'll dabble a little bit in the Guess Who when you first started and everything. Oh, don't worry, I remember that.
Yeah.
Views on just finances and stability, and then also, I mean, like it's just like living frugal, man. Because like I will tell you, out of a lot of the people that I know, you live a very like frugal lifestyle, and you've done it like in such a scheduled way as to where you know where you're going, like direction wise, and what you're preparing for. And I admire that a lot. I admire that a whole bunch. So,
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man, of course. So let's jump into it. First of all, let's just start. Like, where are you currently in life? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I spieled for the listeners, but tell us a little bit about kind of like where Zach currently is in overall life.
Honestly, and I mean, you know as well as anyone from the little rant, which I'll try to kind of to an extent, obviously, you know, curtail to just the nitty gritty and the down and dirty of it. But you know, sometimes it takes having something that kind of just, you know, knocks you on your butt to really make you look at where you're at in your life and think, is everything how I've been thinking it is? And if so, do I like that? And if not, why do I have a different interpretation of life versus what it might actually be? So I had an issue with my car, and it kind of, I would say, sent me reeling, honestly. It was one of those things where I'd been diligently and, you know, really with a lot of intentionality putting away some money on the side to be able to pay off half my student loans by the end of this year. Mm-hmm. And I was already at that goal, actually. I have maybe $22,000 left in my student loans, which I know is not a lot. I'm very grateful for that. Yeah. I had $11,000 put aside, and I was leaving my parents' house one day because I go there once a weekend or, you know, twice, you know, once every 2 weeks or whatever to have dinner, hang out, all that good stuff. And my mom called me actually. She said, you know, Dad found something that looks like oil. He's not sure what under where your car was. Maybe set some cardboard out, get it looked at. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I'm not a big car guy, but I understand that the one thing you never want to hear that there's a problem with
is your engine.
Your automobile.
Yeah,
especially your head gasket. And that's what it was. So I took it into a place, and they did some diagnostics, and they said, my man, your head gasket's gone after tax and everything. And it wasn't just that. I had a hole in the oil pan, hole in the oil transmission line holes, transmission pan holes, a pin misalignment in my steering. I was like, if you just want to keep finding stuff, that's fine.
Gosh, man.
They found all these things, and it was going to be $6,200 in repairs after tax.
Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. And what was the current value of your car?
$5,000 or less.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm debt averse, as you said, and I'm frugal, as you said. So I was thinking, well, last thing I want in my life is a car payment, but the last thing I'm going to do is get another car that my car was an '08 Chevy Impala. So, you know, it's 15 years old, and it had 80,000 miles on it, but it was 15 years old. And as you come up to 100,000 miles on a lot of cars, things start going wrong, things start needing replaced and all that. And in my head, I was like, well, you know, it's one of those deals where, I mean, this car is in good shape. It's, you know, only got the 80,000 miles on it, but it's 15 years old. So it was one of those deals where I said, you know, I think I have to cut my losses and actually get a car. Now, was I planning on getting a car? No.
Not at all. Yeah,
not a car?
Yeah.
No. it's one of those things. But I thought to myself, this is one of those deals where beggars can't be choosers. I need to be mobile to get to work. Thankfully, work was very accommodating. They let me work from home for an entire week while we figured it out.
Wow.
I pulled into the car lot, and they only had 5 new cars on the whole lot. And I'm like, man, this is going to be not amazing. But thankfully, universe works how it does. They had just had a car that they hadn't even listed yet come in. It was a leased vehicle with 14,600 miles on it.
Wow.
And it was, consequently, $22,000, which is exactly
exactly what you had saved. Oh wow!
And I was like,
don't you just love how life works like that?
Yeah, I was like, there's a sense of humor. I don't know people's stance on the universe and God and whatever, but if there is something out there that's got a sense of humor, because I'm like, yes, the cost of a student loan, fantastic. So I was like, well, I guess that's where that 11,000 is going. I could pay for half a car. So thanks to a hefty down payment I could throw down and a little bit of love from my folks to lend me some money, I was able to get pretty much to the point where I only had to finance like 5,000 of it, which is nice because my car payment's like under $102 a month. Which
that's impressive. That's impressive.
That's very low for a car payment.
Oh yeah. I mean, right now, like average car payments for a lot of Americans, it's almost 500 to 600 is average, and it's ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, you look at maybe like what 5. I mean, I would say about 7 years ago, like that could have been someone's rent for a month.
It could have, and that's it's expenses come up when you don't expect them, and I'm glad that I was putting that money away to do that with the student loans because of the things that are expensive right now in my life, my biggest expense is going to be rent and transportation because something goes out on your car, all that good stuff, whatever, you got to be covered. Mm-hmm. So, and I promise this is meandering back to hitting your main topic, but
it's good.
Set the stage for it.
Yeah, it's good.
So I was, at the dealership and I said, all right, let's do that. It's basically a new car, but I don't pay the new car price tag for it. And I get a discount on it, a couple $1,000s at least, whatever. Was able to trade in my car, get something towards it. And I went ahead and got the 10-year warranty. So that means that pretty much bumper to bumper, we're covered. Something goes out, we're good. Because that's the big thing. You get hit with something like a head gasket going out, you could be out $6,200 and you're reeling. And I thought to myself, it was an extra, I think, $3,000 to put it on. And that's about how much they gave me for my car. And I said, you know what? Fine. That sounds good to me. For 10 years, I have peace of mind. It's not 10 years. It's 10 years from when the car was made. So, like, till 2030.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm like, still, that's fine. Because the 3-year was going to come with it, but it would lapse. And they're like, you could add an extra 7 to make it a 10-year. And I was like, yes. Because, again, as things age, things go wrong.
Yeah, you're expected. These things are expected to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what, man? We got to figure that out, and let's just go ahead and do it. So, ironically, I went from not having that kind of coverage on my last car and everything having to be out of pocket if something went wrong to now I have a car that I'm on track to get paid off fully in December, so I don't have a car payment or anything, and have that extra, 7, 8 years of just not having to worry about a car expense except for tire rotations, oil change, and maybe a set of tires or two.
Man.
That is so invaluable. And I thought, life punched me in the mouth, but this actually was the best case scenario. As weird as it sounds, and you don't think it in the time. You're like, best case scenario, I bet. Yeah, thanks. As you're sitting there, cutting a check for what you've, put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and it's all gone all at once.
Yeah, but that overall, I mean, I think that is just so huge. I want people listening to kind of really understand that, because you're in a position where, like you're saying, you have student loans, you have that money that you needed to pay off the rest of it, saved up, you were ready to go, and life just throws you that fork in the road. And I mean, talk to me a little bit about truly the emotions, what how did that feel? How'd you process that?
In all honesty, it was crushing, because I am someone who has a lot of pride, which I try to separate pride and ego, and I think I usually do a pretty good job at it, where you have to kind of have a little bit of unwavering self-belief, but I never want it to border on, ego or arrogance or anything like that. but also knowing I'm good at this thing and I'm not good at this thing, and knowing I am good at this thing and I'm not good at this thing, instead of just saying it. Like, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, and I know that one of the things that I'm good at is being diligent, being disciplined, and doing the things I need to do to look out for future me. Because I always feel like if you're always looking out for future you, you're never going to need for anything really in the future, but you might want for some things short term. But if you're always looking out for current you, then you're always going to be needing for something in the future, but you might have a little bit less that you're wanting for right now. But I also believe there's a tipping point, an inflection point, where eventually then you can do all the stuff you want to do as well. So I think there's a balancing act there. And I felt as though it was really just critical to look at where I was at. And the problem was, it hurt because I had worked so hard to get there, and I was thinking, man, I can't wait to be debt free. I can see it, I can feel it, and then I doubled it. I literally doubled it, and well, until then I took out half of what I'd added. So I added 50% of the debt and wiped out what I'd saved. And to me, I was like, man, I'm going backwards. Am I even doing this right? Is any of this worth it? This
felt like a reset.
Right, and I kind of spiraled, and I'm like, not like going crazy in the streets or anything, but like I was talking to my parents, and I'm like, I'm not gonna have the money for this. I can't afford a car. And they were like, okay, listen, you got to sit, you got to breathe, you got to figure this out, man, because you're not broke. You've been broke, and you're still thinking that you're broke. Let's look at the numbers, because we don't know what the numbers are, and I don't think you do either. There's no way that you're broke. You make good money for your age. You're fine. Now, for reference and stuff, I was my first job out of college was at a startup, and I was not making the best money. I'll put it this way: I could have made more working at a restaurant, just doing anything with the amount of hours I was putting in. Some weeks were 60, some weeks were 80. There were a couple of 100, and it was terrible. I could feel my body physically failing. I could feel myself mentally failing. It was scary. I was really not feeling great. And on top of that, I was doing a lot of reselling stuff on the side to make sure that
I remember you telling me about that.
Yep, with consoles, I did $20,000 worth of gross sales of consoles in a year to make sure that I could pay bills because I was making so little.
Okay, so hold on. Let's pause a little bit, because that's some pretty impressive stuff. You said
but
how
That's
much?
also not net. That's also not net, and a lot of it was I was thinking this was going to have to be a long-term thing, so I was putting a lot of money into getting my boxes, getting my packing materials, getting a shelving rack, getting big like bins that you can put stuff in. So I only ended up netting like $5,000.
I mean, but okay, hold on. Let's unpack a little bit of that. So you were saying, like, okay, getting out of college, first job in the real world with your degree. Like, tell what was the job?
So I started out as the executive admin, and I was helping out the founder CEO of everything.
Gotcha.
And he had thought that I'd be in that for about a year, and he came to me maybe 2 months in and was like, I'm going to be honest, you've already outgrown this. You need to be doing something else. I can tell that this is already below you. And I was like, okay. So he was like, the sales team is needing someone to be building their proposals to take to clients. Would you be the data analyst? And I was like, I've never been a data analyst, but I'll do it. So I did, and it was just me. Sales could not give anything to a client, pitch or presentation wise, if I didn't make it. So I would do, each of them would take me between 1 to 4 hours to make, depending on the client. Usually 2 to 3 was the average. Man. And I would do maybe 5
in a day.
Yep. So if you know the math on that, obviously that could be 5 hours. That could be 20 hours, which obviously there weren't going to be 20-hour days, but usually I got pretty good at it, and I could do it in like 2.5 hours or so. So I was looking at 10-hour days at my minimum usually before I could touch anything else in the job. That was just churning what was coming in, and I would do it on weekends. I would do whatever I needed to get caught up, make sure things were getting out, and I took pride in my work. I believed in it. I wanted to do well, but it comes at a price, and if you don't have your physical or mental health, you cannot function. I don't care how much you like your job. I don't care if you're making a lot of money. In my case, I was not, but I believed in it, enjoyed it, and thought maybe there'd be a payout in the future because it's a startup. And it was just one of those things where I was thinking, this is not sustainable. And then coming home after that and running around town. I was in the trenches, man. I was going to some places that were not safe at all.
Yeah, like
to
how
get
how did you
consoles.
how did you how did you like balance out? So I mean, you're working full-time job and then you're also
Yep.
reselling items on the side to compensate for, just overall income. So like let's break it down a little bit. Okay, so like how much did you feel that according to like how you're living at that time, right? Your cost of living. How much did you feel like
Yeah.
you needed to compensate within your second side gig in order to kind of get by? Because
Honestly, the belief was as much as possible because I was too scared to look at the numbers, and I'm going to be honest with you, I never stopped to really look at the numbers because I knew they'd be really tight, and I thought if I had something in my head of I'm not able to cover my bills with just my current job, I thought it would freak me out. So I was like, just assume that once you're off work, you're go mode, man, and you sell as many consoles as you possibly can. You get as good of deals as you can.
how'd you even get into that?
Part of it was when I was in grad school, we would get. So there was something you could apply for called a tuition waiver. Ironically, where I went to grad school, I was denied an undergrad for all the different reasons and whatnot. GPA, letter of recommendation, resume, all that stuff, right? And ACT. So I ended up getting a tuition waiver from them though for grad school because of ironically all those other things. Once I went to undergrad, I was able to get ironically the same GPA. My ACT didn't change. I had more feathers in my cap though from internships and all that kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it had good letters of recommendation. Actually, something to show more than just I played soccer in high school. Like, all right, man, that's sick. So I went and I was at let me think. I was sitting there and I had asked them, I said, okay, well, I get the tuition waiver. Are there any sort of stipulations or things with that? They said, well, the one is that you have to maintain employment at an internship that we agree upon that cannot exceed 20 hours of work a week. And I was like, I'm sorry. And they were like, yeah, so like you can't hold employment anywhere else either. And I was like, so I can't go to another internship. I can't up my hours. They said, nope. And I said, I can't work at Wendy's. They're like, nope. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, so I eat and pay rent how? And they're like, you might need to take out another loan. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Whoa.
So I'd say, well, what if it's like a self-employed thing? They said, you can do that because that's not, like regulated by us. I said, okay. Gary Vaynerchuk, I saw on TikTok talking about garage sales.
Gary V.
Yeah. And you take $50 and you scale it. And
There
I
you
thought,
go.
I really don't have any other options. So I got busy. I went to garage sales for, a year or whatever, and I was able to live off of what I'd saved up some of between that summer from undergrad going into grad school.
Gotcha.
And, I was making, I think, $15 an hour at my internship and all that, which isn't a ton, but it's enough.
It's something. I mean, and some internships don't even pay at all. So I mean, that's
exactly. And you're not going to be big balling in an internship. What you're there to do is you're there to get some sort of something to put on your resume. You're there to get skills. You're there to network, and you're there to learn. So that's what I did, and I loved what I did. Absolutely loved it, and I said, I got to find the income on another way to do it. And part of what let me do that was the Roni hit, so we were able to be remote for a lot of stuff, and it cut down on travel time, and you could do stuff remote. So when I wasn't doing that, I was able to maybe go to a garage sale, go to Facebook Marketplace meetup, whatever, to do things and find things to do.
When you started off, sorry, real quick. When you started off like doing the resale, like what was the turnout? Like, I mean, a lot of people. I mean, I'm glad you brought up Gary Vee because a lot of people. I mean, they get on YouTube and everything. They watch his videos. They're so pumped. They're motivated, and I would say 90% of people do nothing with it. I mean, and then 10% of people actually try it. Out of the 10% of people, maybe 2% of those people are actually successful with it, and they stick with it for, let's say, more than 2 months. Which I mean, you definitely did. So like, what was the startup of that? Like,
Yeah, so ironically, initially I was using the floor in my living room to put inventory, and I just did it. I had a 1-bedroom. I was stacking boxes. It was like Tetris, and the post office has free boxes, so I was able to use them. And I didn't have to buy any of my own unless it was a really weird shaped thing. I took my Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards and sold those.
Oh gosh.
at the height of the pandemic, those were hyper inflated, so I was able to sell those and make some good money.
That is awesome.
And I'm glad I got out of it when I did. I probably sold 10,000 Pokemon cards easily. I was buying people's whole collections. I'd sit on the floor and I'd inventory them. I'd do them by set. I'd do them based on different things. I learned different things I could do. Cards was a big thing I did for a while with Pokemon, a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I would use TCG Player, and I'd just go card by card. I'd look at the price, I'd look at, the condition, and I'd discount them in half if they were not great, or I'd just make them free if they were trashed. And I would do, 111 cards available for, $7.95 on eBay. And I'd do that for like 20 sets. And you maybe get it all from someone for like 30 or 40 bucks.
How much time do you think you were putting into this, like all of this? Because this sounds like a lot of work. This sounds like an insane amount of work.
Per week?
Yeah.
Easily 40 hours at least. It was another job.
It's another job, yeah.
Yeah, because with grad school and stuff, I was able to knock out different things with that. But then in the summer was really when I'd double down, where I'd go from, still working my internship to then doing this heavily. And then I'd, scale back a bit of this when I was in grad, and just kind of focus on that, obviously, because that's what I'm there for. But I needed to make sure I could fund it and finance it. So, I did that, and I figured out what was hot at the time, and I just turned and burned it until there wasn't anything left to do. And, as I got out of consoles, the sun's kind of set on that for PS4s, I think. That was a hot thing. Consoles I could sell for $300 in 2021. I was struggling to move for $150 in
once
a month ago.
The next gen started, coming into the market.
Yeah. And I refused to do PS5s because, they were scalped.
Yeah.
People were like, I became kind of known in the area for reselling consoles, and people would hit me up, be like, hey, my boy gave you my number, or gave me your number because, you bought a console from you and said, it was actually clean. There weren't roaches in it. There wasn't a bunch of stuff in it. And, that's not normal. So I was seeing if, you had some, and I'd be like, nah, I'm kind of out of that now. But it's one of those deals, man, where I was just like, anything I do, I take pride in, and whether or not it's something that people will see or not, I'm going to crack that console open. I'm going to clean it as much as I can, and I'm going to make it to the point where that thing's going to last you. You might never talk to me again. You might never see me again. You might not be the kindest to me on Marketplace or whatever, or offer up, but I know that whatever I sell you,
it's that customer service.
Yep, yeah. And it's, the goal is that you don't see me again. I want that thing to last you. I want that to last you. I want it to work. And that's just kind of an ethics and a moral way that I try to conduct myself and go about things, because I think that at the end of the day, everything comes back around. And if I'm selling garbage,
of course,
you never know. And you also never want to punk someone out of their money.
Yeah.
You never punk someone out of their money. You never punk someone out of their time. And, there's some crazies out there, man. And, I once I was to a point where I wasn't truly struggling to make ends meet, I stopped doing. I would say for an extra $20, I'll drop it off at your house. I do that at like 2 a.m. in some of like the rougher neighborhoods, and I'm like, man, I'm going to get like, I'm going to get pumped full of holes. Like, this is not good. Like, one person could really get me, and it's over. And I'm like, this is not smart.
Oh my god.
I got out of it, and and then once I was more established and people knew me, I was like, all right, I'm only meeting at police stations now. And some people wouldn't do it. I'm like, that's okay. I'm not saying you gotta be comfortable with it, but I'm not gonna keep rolling the dice, because you play stupid games enough, you're not gonna win everything.
You learn exactly. At any point of this, like, did you have thoughts of trying to scale it up? Like, I know you said you started with cards and then you went to consoles. I mean, as you became popular amongst like communities, like, did you have people asking like, hey man, do you sell shoes? Because there's a lot of people like sneakerheads. There's a big market for it. I remember when I was in Columbus for college, I went to I forgot what it was, like one of those sneaker conventions at I don't know if it was the Ohio State Fairgrounds or wherever it was, but I think it was called Sneaker Co. or something. But it was loaded with people from different states coming to trade and resell shoes. Like, there was a huge market for that.
Absolutely. So I always want to stick with something I understand. I know enough to know enough. And the older I get, the more I realize how little I know. And it's better to learn things safely without just throwing yourself into it and your money into it if you don't understand it. Because I understand consoles, It's one of the most common things I notice get sold on Facebook Marketplace. And even though there's quantity, there is also that dollar holding where it actually has some sort of a cost that it intrinsically seems to keep to a large extent. So even though there's quantity, it's something that's flippable. I could find one from someone who's letting go of a console for $150 and turn around and sell it for $200. I can do that. Now I say that, but that's not the reality now, at least where I live. That is not what I'm seeing. I got a console for $70 and I struggled to move it. And I was like, that is actually ridiculous, because sometimes I would get consoles for $100 and I'd move it for $300. It might sit for a month, but I knew that the demand was there, and I knew that what I did was good enough, and I knew that the way I did it, people liked and responded to. And people don't want to deal with someone shady, especially if they're getting something for their kid, and they don't want to get, something shady, especially if they're like, listen, man, I might not have, the most glamorous job on earth. I want to make sure that my money is actually going to go to something that works. So I always made sure it worked. I send you videos of it working. I send you pictures of the inside cleaned out. I show you everything with it. I offer, X amount of days afterwards, if something's wrong with it, you bring it back to me. You give it back to me in the condition I gave it to you in. You get your money back. And that's just kind of how I worked. And no one does that on Marketplace.
No, and they don't. And the thing is, like,
people on Marketplace are terrible people.
For the people that are listening, I know, like, for the people that are listening, I'm like, you are spitting like some really good facts on like how people can really get a better turnaround if they're selling things online. Because, like, Zach, everything you're talking about is literally the customer service aspect that you do not see from online transactions. Like, because it's so much of a click of a button, like, no one does the follow up. No one goes out of their way to like, hey, I'll do this for you. Like, make the transaction one safer and more comfortable for the customer. Yep. People don't do that.
No, what people will do is they'll sell you something that doesn't work and they'll block you. So that you can't come back and get it. That's what happens online. That's how you get punked.
Let me tell you, I've had a situation like that where I was buying. So I won a tablet from work, an iPad, and I was looking for like a case protector, like a one of the keyboard things, right? And so I met up with this person. I found him on Facebook Marketplace, exactly what you're saying. I met up with them, and it was like at a Kroger parking lot. And the person sold me a wrong size keyboard thing for my tablet. And like, I was when we did the transaction, I gave him the cash, they gave me the item. I was in my car, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna fit. I'm looking online on my phone, and like the person is still like out there, and I go back out and say, hey, and I was like, this isn't gonna fit for my phone or my tablet. So I go home and everything, and then I did not bring the tablet with me, which was a big mistake on my part the day of the transaction. So I go home and everything, and I was like, yeah, of course, this doesn't fit. I tried reaching out to the person on Facebook Marketplace, instantly blocked. Like, I was like, what is going on? So I got robbed. That's point blank. That's what happened. So,
and you're right. You're right.
Like, to hear like the customer service aspect that like you put into like these items that you sold, like, man, like, that's one, huge time consuming, but two, I can definitely understand how your clientele kept growing. So like, I guess then like my question is, was it the safety aspect of things that kind of led you to stop? And I know you're saying like, you were doing the cards, you were doing the console, and then, knowing like, know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. So you didn't like transition into anything else that kind of like started to scale that. Like, what did you move into after that?
So what ended up happening was I ended up getting a job that I could live off of and actually make enough money that I could afford to live. Nice. And I didn't have to do something like this. And I kind of just started looking at it and being like, it's actually worth my time now to be putting the kinds of hours into my last job into this one, but I don't even have to do that, where it's just a 40-45 hour a week job, like a lot of jobs should be, where you can actually have a life. And I was thinking, let's work on actually just, because at that point I was severely burnt out, and I was like, my body was failing, and I'm like, this is just not good. So I almost had to take my foot off the gas. Otherwise, like, I don't know what could have happened. I'm not saying I would have dropped over. I'm in my early 20s, but like, man, if I was any earlier, I don't know how much abuse my body could have taken more. I really pushed it as much as I think I physically could have. So I got to that point, and I said, let's take a step back for a bit, maybe do it for fun here and there. And, you know, I did a little bit to kind of show people how to do stuff. You know, I'd make videos on it, show people how to do it, just in case they were curious and all that. And, you know, a lot of people appreciated it and everything. And I was like, sure, you know, that's cool. And then from there, I really wasn't doing it otherwise. And it was kind of fun for a little bit longer. And then I just was like, you know, I think I'm done with this. Not because it was like, you know, oh, I quit. But I was like, it served its purpose in my life. You know, I think I'm done. And that's kind of where I got to, where I just ended up not transitioning into anything with that. But then from there, my time more so went into just, you know, TikTok and stuff like that. And that was kind of where the next, you know, grouping of my time went, where I thought of more of a long-term strategy with that.
So speaking of TikTok, like I remember before you started like diving heavily into it, I think you had the YouTube page started first. Your YouTube channel was already started, and I remember like you called me and we were just having a conversation. I know you were a little bit hesitant to start getting onto TikTok, and then like I think you were saying like you started finding how like, I mean, like some TikTokers are just getting like money like crazy from people that are like giving gifts, and like talk to me a little bit, like what was that?
So I had basically, a friend of mine, she convinced me to make a TikTok to try to get some traffic to YouTube, because YouTube I would get like 2 organic views and a dislike. Like, bro, I could not buy a like on YouTube or any sort of engagement if I tried. And I would spend, it didn't matter if I spent, you know, an hour on it or if I spent 20 hours on it, I was still getting 2 views and a dislike. And I'm like, this is just really soul crushing, because like, I'm not doing it to be famous, but like I would like somebody to see it.
I know what you mean, man. I know.
But if no one sees it, this is stupid. This is really a waste of time, because I'm just actually making it for myself, quite literally. It's not like there's one person who's like, hey, thanks, I really appreciate these. No one was appreciating anything. And I'm like, well, what am I doing then? So I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I'm not really liking YouTube anymore, because I mean, it's kind of beat me down. So I went and did a little bit of TikTok stuff, and I'm like, you're telling me I could make a garbage video, absolute garbage, no edits, nothing, just me talking, not even doing well, stuttering, whatever, not articulate, not interesting, 600 views guaranteed? Why? Who's watching this junk?
He said, why?
Like, well, you know, maybe I'll do this because this is kind of fun. At least someone sees it, and people would actually comment things, and usually they weren't mean. I'm like, well, this is kind of nice. So I started doing that, you know, and just talking to people, and I had a lot of fun. And then I had a couple videos do relatively well, and I was like, well, this is kind of exciting. So it just kind of grew into this thing where it was fun as it was like scaling, because I was still having fun and it was still enjoyable conversation with people. And that went on for probably like a year of just that, of just like growth and just talking to people and, you know, really enjoying myself. And it didn't feel, I say like a job. I never really made money doing it, but like it didn't feel like reselling it started to feel, and YouTube it started to feel. It felt fun, and I'm like, this is good. You know, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm developing, and I'm also having fun, and that's important. You know, and my needs are met, so I'm able to do something like this. And then I thought, you know, the future is digital with a lot of things, and having some sort of online presence is helpful. And I was like, you know, this could be, this is the only app that lets an average human like me go viral. You can't do that really anywhere else unless it's for the wrong reasons.
You're right. Even like Vine, I mean, like platforms like Vine, when it came out, like it was, you could kind of say like Vine was a pre-TikTok of its day. I mean, and like, You're 100% right. Like what TikTok is now, and like what it's done for a lot of content creators. I mean, it's given them that spotlight where, I mean, we live in the current age where we digest information in quick like seconds of video feed, and like that's the best way to communicate to people. And I mean, even like speaking of everything going on with TikTok, you know, like look what's happened on Capitol Hill, you know, with the CEO and trying to fight on not getting the app, you know, like taken down in the US, you know, and it's done a lot. It's done a lot from people. And then you're right when you say like it can give the average Joe that visibility to kind of like make it on social media in that sense, you know. And I'm curious too a little bit, because I know since you were doing YouTube first and then transitioned a little bit more into TikTok, and I mean, like I looked and like you're almost at 4K subs subscribers on YouTube. Like, I don't know if you checked that recently, but like, that's a huge accomplishment. And like, I'm nowhere near that. And I will say, like, you gave me seeing like your path and like all the work you put into your videos and trying to like grow your channel. Like, you gave me that motivation. I was like, you know what? Like, man, like, I love what Zach's doing. Like, I want to try to start putting my own content out there some way, shape, or form. And you're right. Like, growth on YouTube, it can be slow, especially if you don't have that niche yet, or you don't have that crowd. Or you're right. Like, you create videos and no one might even be watching it, until either like later on into the future, where you might have another social media platform that's able to help you to elevate the videos that you created on YouTube. But like, my question was like, when you started on YouTube versus when you transitioned to TikTok, like, do you remember like maybe how many subs or views you were at prior to making that jump, and like probably like how much like TikTok really helped to like inflate your YouTube channel?
So here's an interesting thing that I think that people probably don't know anything about is unless you really truly are out there every single day screaming in people's faces, subscribe to my YouTube channel, nobody cares that you have a YouTube channel if you're on TikTok. They actually could not care any less if they tried. Oh, wow. And that's a very interesting thing I didn't realize, where I thought, 300,000 plus followers on TikTok, the amount of people that have been like, you have a YouTube channel? When it's literally right there in the carrot thing that you can hit thing, or the YouTube thing, or in your little Linktree thing. Yeah. They'll be like, I've been watching you for a year and a half. I'm like, that's a crazy amount of time to be watching someone and never click a link to look. That's insane. What? And I'm like, I realize that like I'm not, I guess, like other people in that way, where like if I actually like someone, I'm going to start checking out their stuff and looking around at what all they have. Mm-hmm. Nobody does that, bro. Nobody does that, even a little bit.
They only pick the one platform, and that they just stick to it.
And that's why I told people, I said, if you build on a platform, you have to have millions upon millions of followers, or like crazy insane virality in a couple of videos to have a shot when a new platform comes around. Because, if TikTok goes away, bro, no one's going to care about me. No one's going to follow me on other stuff, or look for me on other stuff, or watch me on other stuff, because it's instantaneous. I've served the purpose on that platform. When they're on TikTok, if I come up, they'll watch me. They won't even seek me out past that. I've had people be like, hey, I haven't seen your videos lately. They're not popping up on my For You page. And they're like, I haven't watched you for 6 months, and you're one of my favorites. I'm like, bro, if someone's one of your favorites, go to their profile. So I just want to tell people that. So and I don't mean this in a cynical way. Yeah. I mean this just from a very, here's, cold water to the face. Nobody remotely cares about you on social media if you're not easily accessible. If you're not in their face, they will not do the bare minimum to find you. They'll just get off the app, or they'll do something else. No matter what people say, what they do is very different. People could say you're their favorite to watch. I heard that a lot. But then they'd say something like, I didn't watch you for 6 months because you didn't show up on my For You page. Dog, if I didn't see someone who is my favorite, I'm flipping over rocks to find out where they are to watch them. That is not a favorite. That is a convenient, I guess I'll watch them. Very different. So always be aware. What people say and what they do, especially online, is very, very, very different from reality.
Well said. Well said. What's the difference between your content on TikTok versus YouTube? Because I know I've seen a lot of your YouTube videos, but I personally, I don't have TikTok. I've been one of those people that's been like, when TikTok first came out, I was like, this isn't for me. Like, I can see where this can go wrong. And like, and the thing is, like, TikTok to me was one of those things too. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so time consuming. Like, because you can get on the app and you just mindlessly start scrolling because like, oh, this video is cool, that video is cool. And then next thing you look up and 5 hours has gone by. You're like, whoa, what did I do with my day? So like when TikTok first came out, I was like, I can't get hooked onto this. Like my girlfriend, she definitely got hooked onto it. I mean, she even downloaded it on my iPad. I'm like, I don't use it. She does. But it's like, I know like, tell me a little bit about the different types of content you create on there, because I know on YouTube you do a lot of your cooking stuff. Like on TikTok, are you doing the same, or like how are you like captivating and engaging your audience? And then we'll talk a little bit more about your cooking stuff on YouTube too, and how you got into that.
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. Anything you see cooking wise on YouTube comes from TikTok. Not a single thing on YouTube is original that I've done for years. It's all from my TikTok. So the live streams go on as YouTube videos. So I'll make a TikTok live stream. Afterwards, I'll download it, put it on YouTube. That became what I was doing instead of making YouTube videos. I didn't really have the time or the desire to make both.
That's smart.
So that's what I would do. So those videos you're talking about, those were on TikTok lives. Every single one of them. None of them were originally made on YouTube. Not a single one.
So you're telling me I was watching your TikTok videos on YouTube.
You were. And YouTube Shorts, every single one of them, a TikTok. So basically what ended up happening was I would go up on live, and I tried to make it something where people could kind of, follow along at home with the cooking stuff that I would do, where I would do the lives, and if people missed them, I'd throw them up on YouTube. Because I had people messaging me, they're like, listen, when is the next cooking live? I want to take off work to watch it. I wish I was kidding. People would tell me that, and I'm like, that's extraordinarily concerning and sad. Please don't do that. I am not remotely that important or interested.
Okay. All right, I have to take this time and tell, like, for people listening, like, literally, Zach is not playing around when he says this. Like, so now, from what I'm finding out, his TikTok lives that are on YouTube, like, he goes on TikTok live and will show you how to meal prep for, like, an entire month. And do it all in one day. And I'm like, the videos are fascinating. I mean, I think you've done a video that was almost like 2 hours long. I mean, there probably is some that's more longer than that. But like, for anyone that's interested in that, like, it's and even if you don't have an interest in it, like, it's interesting to watch. Like, you talk about how to like actually like prep and actually like keep the food still relatively fresh for when you're needing it.
Yeah. So essentially what it is and it all goes back to being, broke in college, where I was trying to figure out a little bit in undergrad, but also, a bit in grad school, more so in grad school, of how can I afford rent and food? Those are two things I like, and maybe I don't like paying them, but I need those. So I was thinking, how can I do both? And what ended up happening was I got, I was looking at my bill. I'm like, if I eat out, $10 here, $20 there, you're bleeding money quickly, man. In a week, you can spend like over $100 easily eating out, and you eat it once. You're not getting leftovers. So I was thinking to myself, that's a problem. How much does it cost to cook your own thing? And I'm like, well, that's a lot more cost effective. Let's do that. So what I did was I looked at the most just basic, easy recipes I could possibly make. And it was to the point where I wasn't spending money on broth. I wasn't spending money on spices. Salt and pepper and water. That's all I was using to cook stuff. I'm like, listen, eventually I'll have the kind of money to be able to get chicken broth. But until then, it's water. It's water. And it's also water. So that was the thing. Like, and I know that people make fun of like the latte factor joke and all that, where they're like, well, if I just didn't get Starbucks every day, I'd have a house right now and be retired. But to me, it was real, because like I would make rent in increments of like $20 to spare. So like, it was real tight. And I'm like, yeah, the latte factor is what kept me alive. Like, it was very real. And I think I'm not at all saying like some people are so privileged they'll never hit that. But I'm saying like, I've never experienced poverty, but I've experienced being broke. And being broke is not fun, bro, at all. And it truly is in very razor thin margins of $20 sometimes to get your bills paid, to be able to just make it to the next month. And that was part of why I did it, where I'm like, when my grandma passed, she had made cookies and stuff, and my grandpa can't cook, bro, so he didn't have a need for it. There was this big, deep chest freezer, and they were like, would Zach want this? I'm like, Zach needs this, yes. So I got it, and I would cook everything for the month in advance. I'd make stuff in bulk that was cheap, relatively healthy, and made a lot, and I would put it in Tupperware and freeze it. And then I would pull it out and thaw it 24 hours in advance of when I want to eat it, throw it in the microwave for 2-3 minutes, eat it. That was what I ate. That's how I ate. Wow. That's how I lived. And that was a big way that I was able to cut my, grocery bill and not eat out a bunch. And it was just easier, because it also saves a ton of time. Because if you're cooking for yourself, you've got to prep everything. You've got to cook everything. You've got to clean up.
Yep.
And if you're going to do that, And of course, it's the internet, so everyone on there is like, dude, Major L, I could cook all that food in 45 minutes. You're bad at cooking. I'm like, okay, you're making chicken nuggets and maybe some ramen. Because there's no way that you can actually cook 60 meals, each meal being like lunch, dinner, lunch, dinner, for 30 days in a month. If you're doing lunch and dinner, 2 times 30, 60. No. And they're like, yeah, bro, you're just not efficient. I'm like, dog, I have something in the oven and 2 different dishes on stovetop. No. Like, each of them is taking me 2 hours total, but I'm doing all 3 of them at once. So, like, I don't know where you think I'm lacking the efficiency. You're just lying. So it's one of those things where, like, again, the internet too, everything with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
People are just going to say whatever. But you need to be aware that you're spending those 2 hours if you're just making something at once, one, meal for it. Yeah, maybe you get leftovers the next night, but what about lunch for the next day?
Yeah.
You don't have that. So what are you're going to eat a sandwich? That's fine. But I was thinking, what if I could actually have like relatively healthy meals for lunch and dinner and save money and save time, where it takes me maybe 12 hours if I were to do it all in one day, which is extremely taxing and I really don't recommend it. Yeah. But it's how I used to do it. That is all your prep work, all your cooking, and all your cleaning. 12 hours for an entire month?
That's insane.
That's not bad.
It's not.
At all.
It's not.
That's like less than a half hour a day type thing. That's where, Chicken Nugget dude who's lying, that's how you might be able to get that kind of time.
And I bet that like freed up, like, I mean, that gave you a lot of time, you feel personally, like, throughout your entire month, because it was time not spent on having to prepare a meal.
That's the only way I was able to do reselling. I would not have been able to survive if I didn't live that way. If I didn't live that way, I would not have had the time to be able to go out, get inventory, come home, clean it, go out, sell it. That time wouldn't exist. And I probably would have had to move back in with my parents. There's no way. So that was the only way I could have lived.
You were doing all that until maybe not that recent ago. When I remember when we had to talk about like maybe 2 weeks ago now it is, and like you like had a whole like honestly like paradigm shift, and at least that's how I saw it. And like you went from being in a state of stressing like you couldn't be able to breathe financially to taking a step back and seeing things in a different picture to where you feel now more 100% more financially stable. And like I kind of want the listeners to kind of hear a little bit about that. Like you were telling me you took some time away from social media to just kind of like recenter yourself again.
Yeah. So it got to a point where before the car issues, before anything like that, I was down this rabbit hole of success. I was down this rabbit hole of all the success books. Here's what successful people do, listening to success books, reading success books, implementing all this stuff. And I was miserable. I was like, this is actually an awful way to live. Because if you spend your day doing everything that you should do, you will never have time to do anything you want to do or live. And I'll say that again. If you spend your entire life and you are meditating, doing breath work, eating clean, getting 20 minutes of sunlight in the morning or whatever, you are stretching, you're working out twice a day for 30 minutes, you're making sure that you're drinking water at these intervals before and after eating, but not too soon, not too much after, your entire life becomes this big thing that you are trapped in and constrained by. And you could always be healthier, and you could always be better, and you could always make more money, but you also need time to just live and be a human being. I'm not saying sit there and just eat a bunch of chocolate cake by the fist, but I'm saying you need to make sure that you're not sitting there driving yourself up the wall of reading 30 minutes a day, meditating, doing breath work, taking cold showers, like
taking
doing
it to the extreme.
Everything. Yeah, and you don't have time to do anything else. Your morning routine could become 4 hours very quickly if you're doing all these things, and you'll be rushing through it to the point where things that are meant to relax you, ironically now don't, and they're stressors. And you end up more stressed, more taxed, more overworked, more overextended, and less better off for it, but you're doing what you should. And I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see it. But that's the thing, where you're doing all the things that you've read that you should, that you've seen that you should, but your life is terrible. And you feel strange, where you're like, I'm doing everything I need to, and then some. Why am I so unfulfilled? My social life isn't there. I don't talk to my family as much as I should. None of my hobbies happen anymore. I'm sad about it. And I don't like how I live, and I don't like my life. And then you start not knowing if you like you, because you don't know who you are anymore, because you've ripped you to pieces to be able to put in all these success things. And I say put lightly, it's more so like jamming, the square peg in the round hole of like, mindfulness for 30 minutes. Like you're doing too much. And I told the universe, I'm like, I want you to rock me. Like I want you to just keep throwing punches and just don't stop. Because I want to see who I am and what I'm made of before it really matters. Because right now I can handle it.
Not everyone
I've got
can do
support
that.
systems and all that. And man, life just wailed on me. I got like gang beat. Like it was bad. I was getting jumped by life. And the car goes out. Like all kinds of things were happening at once. I couldn't even begin to get into all the things. And that was after I'd said, I'm going to take a little bit of time from social media, mainly because it just wasn't being fun anymore. And there was all kinds of things with that. But, I don't do it for clout, money, fame, anything, because I don't have any of that. But I did it to have fun and enjoy myself, and it just completely stopped being fun. And, there's no point in spending time and energy doing something that you used to like, but now actually kind of hate.
Yeah.
So took that step back and was like, I'm just focused on me. And I thought, well, with that extra time, let's see if, what happens when life starts swinging. And, it was rough. And I was sitting there and I'm like, man, I should not have asked for this. This is just not, this is a lot more than I could probably handle. And then I thought, well, this is exactly what I asked for. And this is exactly what, I needed. And it took the car being the issue to sit down with my parents and realize not only do I have more money than I thought I did, I was living in the past of being that broke, scared, anxious person trying to figure out where I'm going to make rent. And I'm making more than double what I was at that other job, working half the hours. And I actually have time for a life. You don't.
Mentally, you had
doing all this crazy stuff.
Mentally, you kind of kept yourself in your past state. Like you couldn't, even though your life around you had changed. I mean, your job changed, your income changed.
Exactly.
You were still mentally locked into a little bit of that frugal state, but it was unhealthy.
Exactly. And I was never giving myself any sort of credit because I didn't even know that I should be. To me, I was still that broke, scared kid, really, trying to figure out what the heck he's doing with his life. And once I eventually ran the number with my parents, I'm like, there's no way there's that much money left over at the end of the month. There's no way. And they're like, the numbers are what they are, man. Are you missing any expenses? I'm like, no, I'm highballing. And they were like, all right, well, this is reality, man. Come to it. Stop living in this world that isn't. Your reality was very rough. Now it's not. You're fine now. Be fine. And it kind of sent me reeling where I'm like, I was experiencing crazy bouts of anxiety trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Doesn't help that, earlier late 2022, I completely got off my anxiety meds. I've been on at a very high dosage for 10 years.
Wow.
So that was not good.
No. But, like that's like the feeling your world's crashing down.
Exactly. And I was like, well, I'm not going back to those. I worked so hard to come off them. I'm just going to have to sit here and feel it. And man, there's something interesting about sitting there and feeling it because you feel it. And I was like, this is just something that I gotta work out and work towards. And I need to, I think I'm at a point where I sat there and I'm like, I'm actually proud of who I am and where I've gotten to. And
good.
Ironically, I say the proud of who I am thing. I don't even know who I am anymore because my identity of myself was, your back's against the wall, figure it out, do whatever you can within your ethics to get this done and make sure you keep surviving. And now that's not me, and that became who I had to live, breathe, be. Now I don't have to do that. So now I'm like, is that who I am? Or is that just someone I can become if I need to be? Or is that a part of me I can turn on? I can flip that switch? I think that's more the answer. But it's figuring out who is Zack? Who actually is Zack? What does Zack actually like to do? Because for the first time in my life, I feel like I have free time. I haven't had that since I was like a kid. Like, I don't know what free time is. People would ask me my hobbies, and I get really uncomfortable because I'm like, do you people just not work to make sure you're alive? And they're like, what? Like, what kind of life do you have? I'm like, I thought a pretty good one, but like, what do you mean a hobby? And they'd say something like, that's expensive.
Exactly.
Like,
that's
expensive.
That's your default. That's your default. And it was the same thing for me for some time. Yeah. Oh yeah. You start looking at everything in dollar increments. Like, you have friends that want to hang out. Like, hey, come out, let's do this. Let's go golfing. Let's go bowling. Let's do that. And like, yeah. You live life by the expense. Yeah.
First thought, and you're not trying to be, a killjoy either, but you're like, again, it's like I said, when you're making bills in increments of $20, increments of $20 very much matter. And that's part of why I just stopped limiting if I'm eating out to a 4 for $4. I just stopped doing it. Because before I was like, that is the luxury I can afford eating out, is a $4 meal. That's it, man. I cannot afford more than that. But that was past Zack. That was Zack when that was how much money I was making. And I realized it's never going to be that bad again, or if it is, I know how to live like it. But I cannot and will not continue to live in the past, and I need to actually live in the present. I don't want to live in the future. I don't want to live in the past. I want to be cognizant and aware of both, keep them at a healthy arm's length. But I need to be living now. So basically where I'm at right now in my life is I'm taking a step back from social media. If TikTok goes away, obviously I'm not coming back. If it doesn't go away, I'm going to come back at some point. I don't know when that is, but I'm really not missing it, honestly, even a little bit. I mean, the people were awful after a while, and it just became something that just wasn't enjoyable anymore. And I'm not all, I know it probably sounds like I'm all about money. I was all about surviving, which became all about money. And ironically, I learned all kinds of ways I can make money very quickly unethically, and have done none of them. And that's one of those things. And if anyone's seen any of my stuff, which I doubt it, I'm not really a big name, one of the things that I would do was I'd turn off gifts on lives, and people would get irate. And they're like, I want to support you. Let me send you money. I'm like, keep your money. I don't know you. I don't know your situation, but some random loser online does not deserve a penny of your money. Remember that. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you want to support me. Support me by watching. Support me by being a good person. Support me by being kind. I don't need your dollars. If someone wants to, pretend to be an influencer or whatever, let them finance it. If you're that good, sponsors will pay. If you're not that good, I got bad news for you if you don't got sponsors. You might not be that good.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I'm at. Any sponsors that I've talked to have been like, hey, shove it. And I'm like, okay, I must not be that good. Any sponsors that have come to me have been snake oil salesmen where I could have made $3,000, $5,000 a month off it. There were some like that. And I said, I refuse. Would that be life-changing amounts of money for me? Yes. Did that come at a time when I needed that money? Yes. Would I rather be broke living in a box before I take that money? Yes. And those are all things that I know, and I'm super proud of me at my core. I know that money will never dictate who Zack is. I am at my core someone
that's powerful.
Who lives my truths, not to the detriment of others. If I'm making money to the detriment of someone else, I'm not making that money. If I'm making money and it helps someone, I'll make that money. I will take money from a company. I will not take money from a person. And that's just how I try to live. Unless I'm really, truly making your life better, and I believe in my heart of hearts that I'm doing that. If I don't believe it, I can't do it. So that's just it. And that's where I've gotten to.
Zack, you talk about two very important things. And I want to highlight this definitely for the listeners. Success and money. And I hear it in you've heard it in me. When you're so focused on success, it can be very scary to what aspect you start viewing money as well. Especially, when you talk about times where, you compare time and money as to like, okay, well, am I going to put the time to hang out with friends, to enjoy their company and things of that nature, or am I going to save $20, $5, $10 here? And I've battled with it myself personally. I'm known by a lot of my friends as a workaholic, and I think you experience the same thing with a lot of your close friend group too. And when you're known as a workaholic, it's a little bit, I don't know how to, I'm trying to break it down. Like, it's a little bit satisfying, but at the same time, when you really stop and think about it, it's dissatisfying because you think to yourself, wow, my friends view me as someone that would rather spend time working than time with them. And I remember in some of our past conversations, I mean, you helped me to really kind of balance out and really think about where I was in life, because when I was known as so much of that workaholic, like, it was so hard to balance my social life with my work life, because everything that I did, I put a dollar value on it. I mean, there was points where I was starting to even like neglect my relationship with my girlfriend and not take her places because truly in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, like, that's another cost. That's another expense to us. Like, I was planning so much for the Simone of the future versus the Simone of now. And you talked about that a lot, as we've been talking, like the Zack of the future and Zack now. And I think like you and I were both in very interesting spots in our life where we're finally starting to slowly take into consideration the us of now versus the us of the future. And it's so hard of that. It's a little bit hard of that internal battle because, you have those people that tell you like, okay, well, no, you might not be promised tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And I didn't know how to kind of filter that as to, oh, do I only focus on the here and now? Do I only focus on like the future? And I mean, I myself, and I think you too, like we're very future oriented. And it can be very difficult. And sometimes we need that like paradigm reset for life to tell us, maybe friends or family members to tell us like, hey, you're all right. Like there's no reason why you need to continuously put yourself in such a frugal state that you can't enjoy life for what it is right now.
Absolutely. There's a time and a place for everything. And realize that if you're living in a manner that is to truly just barely get by and survive, and it lasts for longer than like a couple of years, and you're not seeing anything that you could possibly break out of that with, you need to reevaluate what you're doing and why you're doing it, because that is neither sustainable nor healthy long term. And while you should be proud that you've been able to do that and keep your head above water and do it yourself, understand 30-year plan, that is not it. And you should expect to move through different statuses of your life, different times of your life, some being better, some being worse, financially, personally, health-wise, everything. Be aware that things ebb and flow and come and go. And you need to understand that will occur. And as you do that, you need to be aware that whatever it is that you're doing now, if your circumstance changes for the better, you're not unworthy of it. It's not that you haven't put the work in. It's not that you don't deserve it. You deserve it. You've earned it. That's what you've been grinding so hard for. The problem is you get stuck in that pattern. You get stuck in that pattern of grind, and then you see the fruits of your labor and you get terrified because you're like, I'm so used to everything teetering on the edge and feeling like it could all come crumbling down at any second. And there is a thing to be said about keeping some of that mindset to an extent to understand that things can go, but also understand that there is enjoyment to be had in things being okay now. And you didn't work so hard for those years or whatever time period to then get to a point where you're now safe and stable at least. Doesn't mean that you're balling, doesn't mean you have a mansion, but you can afford bills comfortably now. You need to relax a bit. You physically and mentally need to. It's to the detriment of your relationships, to your health physically and mentally, to everything about you. You as a person, you are always the same person at your core, your soul, whatever it is, right? Think of the little kid that you were. Treat yourself like that sometimes and be like, listen, like, I'm just a bigger version of that little person.
That's true.
But I'm also not. But at the same time, what would be something that would make little me smile? If I was looking at me now, would I be proud of me? Would I be like, we still play soccer, right? Like, let's go play some soccer. Like, bro, pick up your bag and go play soccer. Like, go do that. Go play some pickup soccer. You don't need to be good. You don't need to score goals. You don't need to do any of that. Just get out and move and do something that little you would, giggle at or laugh at or enjoy, because you deserve that. And it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't even have to be every week, but like, it should at least be every month. There should be one thing that you do that isn't about the money you're making, isn't about any sort of, goals, ambitions, grinding or whatever. And you'll see on social media, you're a loser if you're not in the gym at 5 a.m. throwing up on the ab machine.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's that's part of why I took a break from social media, because it was, how to make $10,000 in a week using ChatGPT. You feel like a complete loser.
Yep.
And all these people are jamming down your throat that if you're not doing this, an idiot could do it. And if you're not, what does that make you? And understand, you're not a loser. You're not an idiot. A lot of the people on social media are lying heavily. And they're extraordinarily insecure and are trying to beat you down because they are not someone and they want to feel like someone so badly. And that is one of the things, to this day, I'm still getting messages. I've been off social media about a month now of people being like, you are the only account on here I've ever seen who was authentically 100% you and real every single time. Whether you got bashed in the comments for it or people poured on the praise for you for it, whatever you said and felt is how you said and felt. And if people liked it, that was still how you felt. If people disliked it, that is still how you felt. And you were never, a jerk to people about it. You were always just you. It wasn't an ego thing. You were just like, listen, here's a normal human being doing normal human being stuff, not trying to get clout, not trying to get your money, not trying to do anything. This is Zach. What you see is what you get, and that is not a thing on social media.
The expectation of social media is like the bar is just set so high, and as you're talking, like I think big into myself, because when you're saying like what would the kid you like to do or like to see in yourself, it's like, man, like, and I've seen this in a lot in adults as we age. And it's scary for me to think about this. When I think about it, is like, as we age, like, we lose a huge sense of happiness in life. And then I'm not going to say this is the general population, because I think truly the people that are able, I think the people that I see, at least through social media, that are financially free are the ones that are able to find that kid sense in them again and be happy. And it's sad to think that, you have to reach that point of financial stability in order to do that. But then again, you don't, because exactly what you're saying, like once a month, like finding that, hey, what did you used to really like to enjoy? Like, honestly, like just last week, and I remember this is from the last time we spoke, Zach, and you were saying how, like, you started going bowling again with your parents and your dad's and his friends. Like, just last week, like, like I sat down and I played video games again, like. And the feeling of that, it was just like, it was weird to me, but it was so fun. Like, and I actually got really into like involved in the game. Like, I was playing Mario Party with my girlfriend and his cousin and his girlfriend, and it was a great time. And like in my mind, I was like, man, like when I was in middle school or like intermediate school, like I used to come home from school and play Call of Duty with my friends. Like, we would be quick scoping, like we would spend like all day like just doing this, and it was like, we didn't care about anything else. We didn't have like money, bills, and finances on our mind. Like we just living life for what it was and what it was fun for. And it's like, man, the more we age, the fact of like that becomes more like, it becomes harder to do, where you need to almost like plan it in your daily cadence, or you won't be doing it. You'll just be in the rat race, the monotony of life, the wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, come home, shower, eat, wake up, go to sleep, do the same thing over and over. And like we just become robots.
Yeah. And honestly, and I want to be cognizant of time and stuff, obviously too. So is it cool, like a parting thing, or do you have like other things that you want to hit still?
Oh, no. Like, I will tell you, Zach, and I think everyone listening to this, has gotten so many like life nuggets out of it. Like, everything that was on my list, like we hit. Like, it was just, I mean, it's so fluid. And like, I mean, at the end of the day, like that's like when I wanted to start doing these podcast episodes, in the sense, I mean, I started off at the beginning of this year. I told myself, like, overall, I want to start creating content. And like I said, a big push of it was people like you in my life that I've seen that one just picked up one day and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start creating it. But it's like, there's so many like amazing people that I feel like I know, and I have very like fruitful conversations with. And I've always told myself, like, man, I would love to start sharing that more and more with the people around me, you know, to start to get to know the mindset and perspective of different people. I mean, like, everything that you've shared today, like, the audience listening, like, yeah, life is hard. Life can suck sometimes, but it's like learning how other people overcome day in and day out, and like their plans and strategies. It's huge. It's huge. So, I mean, Zach, I mean, I want to thank you like so much, not just for your time today, but just for the continuous friendship and just like being there to be able to always like discuss and like bounce ideas off of. And I would say, like, I always tell people, you're a product of your own environment. If you don't surround yourself around people that are going where you want to go, you'll never reach it. And I would say definitely like you come into my environment and you definitely like push me to kind of think more outside the box as to like, you know, what's next, what direction am I going? And I appreciate it entirely. And I was like, I definitely need to get an episode together with Zach and definitely have the audience and whoever might stumble upon these videos to hear it and kind of benefit from it too. So, man, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, and likewise, you know, like I've said and stuff, you know, I appreciate you being in my life as well, and, you know, doing something with this too. And, you know, it's, if there's anything I could leave people with to kind of think about stuff in general from a different light, maybe, or a different lens.
Please, yeah.
Is, as you live your life, you're going to go through stages. Do not fear the stages. Embrace whatever that life stage is. Some are going to be good and exciting, and you might not feel worthy, and you might be like, that life stage isn't going to stay. So enjoy it while it's here, and be grateful for it while it's here. And if you have a bad life stage, understand that once this is over, a good one's coming, or at least one that's not bad, and one that's kind of neutral. It's going to come all the way around every single time repeatedly. And whatever is happening, you could spend the good times being like, oh, I'm not feeling worthy of this or that. Doesn't mean be like, oh, I deserve all this. This is great. You know, you don't need to be, you know, egotistical about it. But you can be like, well, if it's happening to me, I'm grateful for it. And, you know, it's, you know, I've worked hard, so I should enjoy this time.
Well said.
And if things are kind of neutral, be like, hey, it could go up, it could go down. But I'm grateful that right now it's just kind of going. Not everything's going to be this action-packed time of your life, and that's a good thing, man, because that's too much.
Yeah.
You couldn't handle that if every single day was like some sort of an insane movie. You need some times that are, you know, filler episodes, whatever, you know, if you want to think about your life like an anime.
I like that, filler episodes.
Right, but, you know, and it's okay to have a day where I went to work and I got groceries and I came home. Be proud of that, you know. You went to work, you did what you should, you got groceries, you did what you should, and you came home. You don't need to then sit down and cure cancer. It doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it. Are
Man.
your bills met? Yes. Do you have your finances in order? Yes. Are you healthy? Yes. Do you have people in your life that matter to you? Yes. Then you're doing great. You don't have anything else you need to be doing. If you're getting to a point where, well, in 20 years or 30 years, I should be good as far as like retirement goes, and I should own my house, and I should not have debts and stuff, then just keep living how you're living, man. There's nothing else you need to be doing. If you're not on track to do something like that, and that stuff is something that matters to you, then you might need to make some changes. But understand that just because you don't have it instantaneously today doesn't mean you failed. Just because someone seems to have it sooner than you doesn't mean they even do, and doesn't mean that you failed. You're not metricing yourself against anyone else. You're metricing yourself against you. If your needs are taken care of, if you are happy, irrespective of if it's conventionally what you should or shouldn't be doing, or feeling like you should or shouldn't be doing, if it's enough for you, it's enough for you. As a lot of people have said, cool is on the other side of cringe mountain, and it's just the truth, man. My videos and the stuff I make hasn't always will be cringe, because it's me being me. There's nothing more cringe than being authentically you, because authentically you is weird. It's not the norm, and you're not doing it to be quirky or to be anything. You're doing it to be you. And no one should be like inherently cool, because we're people. We're weird creatures.
Everyone's unique in the way that they are. Yeah,
exactly. And you know, my whole thing is I never leaned into the cringe where it was a gimmick, but I was always just like, hey, you want to hear this weird stupid thing I do? And people would be like, yeah, that is weird and stupid. I'm like, I agree. Because it is, you know, like it just can be that simple, you know.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Joe Cool. You can just be Zach, just be Simone, just be whoever you are, and come as you are. And if you've built a life that you're proud of for yourself, it doesn't matter how others feel about it. if you're not negatively hurting or, affecting someone, how you live your life is your business. And be proud of whatever life you have. And if you're not proud of it, should you be? And if you're not proud of it and you shouldn't be, then what can you do to be proud of it? Because everyone deserves to be proud of themselves. And it's okay to feel lost sometimes. It's okay to feel, and I want people to know that. As I've said all these things, I'm incredibly lost right now in my life. I could not feel more lost in my life. I have no idea who I am. I don't know what's coming down the future. I feel very uncertain. There's all kinds of balls in the air that I really wish would settle out. But I can't.
Life.
I can't control any more than what's already happening. So I'm just here, man. So, you might hear this and be like, yeah, it sounds like maybe he has it together. Maybe you don't think that. But if you do think it sounds like I have it together, I couldn't have it any less together. And that's okay, man. That's how it should feel. You're never going to be complete. You're always in beta. You're always growing. You're always developing. So live your life. Be yourself. Try new things. Fail a bunch. And a life worth living is, a life where you do what fits with your core moral compass, whatever that is. And as long as you're able to meet the needs of current you and meet the needs of future you, and you try to be a good person, you get up every day and you do your best at whatever it is, then you should be nothing but proud when your head hits that pillow at the end of the night. And that is my little sign
man,
off.
speaking to the spirit, Zach. I do want to last thing. So for anyone, and I always love to ask my guests, just for the audience, for anyone that heard this, and I mean it, like the message that you shared, I mean, just was really impactful to them, and they want to try to follow up and connect with you. How can they get in contact?
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with the whole TikTok thing. I do still check messages and stuff like that on things, but I haven't posted in about a month or whatever. If it goes down, it goes down. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But Zuchery_official, you can find that on Instagram. You can find Zuchery.com. That's still up as of right now. Again, if something like that goes south, I don't know what the future holds. But Instagram, you could find on TikTok. You could find Zuchery on YouTube. You could find just all kinds of things. There's email addresses you can find associated with those.
Yeah, and I'll put all those in the show notes, man. So I mean, Thank you so much, Zach, and thank you for the time today. I can't wait to give some more time and see how things change and just how we all just develop in life. I mean, personally, I want to keep doing these episodes just because I generally enjoy it. It's a great time, and it's always a great time of reflection too. So I can't wait to see how things change for the both of us. I mean, definitely in the next either months or years. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you do good at it, and I say you keep doing them.
Thank you, man. Hey, well, I'll let you go. Man, you have a fantastic day. And again, thank you so much for this.
All right, brother. All right. As always, love you, and I will talk to you soon.
Love you, man. Take care.